Hey everyone, welcome back to Creepy N. So today's video is definitely going to creep you out. In this video we're getting into 4 terrifying camping experiences in Deadleaf Woods. Before we begin, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and let me know if you want more stories like this. Alright, let's get into tonight's stories. I was 29 years old when I decided to go camping alone in Deadleaf Woods. At the time, my life felt like it had quietly collapsed without anyone noticing. My marriage had ended 6 months earlier. My apartment was too empty. My phone barely rang. Most days I went to work, came home, ate something cold, and fell asleep with the TV on. I told myself I needed space. What I really needed was silence. Somewhere I wouldn't have to pretend I was fine. Deadleaf Woods was about 3 hours north of my city. A co-worker had mentioned it once, saying it was quiet and mostly forgotten. That sounded perfect to me. When I arrived at the ranger station, it was late afternoon. The building looked old, like it hadn't been updated in decades. The windows were dusty. One of the porch steps sagged under my weight. Inside, the woman sat behind the desk, reading a paperback novel. She looked up slowly when I walked in. "I'm here for a camping permit," I said. She studied me for a moment longer than necessary. "You going alone?" she asked. "Yeah," I replied. She slid the form toward me. "Don't wander," she said. Her voice wasn't threatening. It wasn't dramatic. It was tired, like she'd said it too many times before. I laughed nervously. "I won't." She didn't smile. After parking, I followed a narrow trail into the woods. The trees were tall and thin, their branches mostly bare. Dead leaves covered everything. They crunched loudly beneath my boots, making me feel like I was announcing my presence to the entire forest. It took about 45 minutes to find a clearing near a shallow creek. The water barely moved. It just slid slowly over rocks, making a faint whispering sound. I told myself it was peaceful. I set up my tent, started a small fire, and cooked dinner. As the sun dropped, shadows stretched between the trees. The forest darkened quickly, faster than I expected. That was when I noticed how quiet it was. No birds, no insects, no distant animal sounds, just wind and water, and sometimes footsteps. At first I thought it was a deer or maybe another camper, but every time I looked, I saw nothing, just empty trees. It happened 3 times before sunset. Crunch, pause, crunch. Each time, it stopped when I turned my head. That night, I crawled into my sleeping bag feeling uneasy but embarrassed by my own fear. I told myself I was being dramatic. Around midnight, I woke up suddenly. I didn't know why. My heart was racing. The fire had burned out. The woods were completely dark. Then I heard it. Someone walking, slowly, close, not rushing, not sneaking, just moving. Crunch, step, crunch. It circled my tent. Once, twice, 3 times, twice, 3 times. I lay completely still, barely breathing. My mouth felt dry. My hands were shaking. "Hello?" I whispered. No answer. The footsteps stopped right outside my tent. I could see a shadow through the thin fabric. A tall shadow. A human one. It stood there, not moving, not speaking, just standing. Minutes passed, maybe longer. I don't know. My legs went numb. My stomach hurt from fear. Finally, the shadow stepped away. The footsteps faded. I didn't sleep again. When morning came, I packed as fast as I could. I didn't eat. I didn't drink coffee. I just wanted out. But when I started hiking back, something felt wrong. The trail wasn't where it should have been. I walked for an hour. Nothing looked familiar. Another hour. Still nothing. Then I realized I was back at my campsite. My cold fire pit, my flattened leaves, my footprints. I felt sick. I tried another direction. Same result. By midday, I was sweating, exhausted, and panicking. That's when I noticed the other footprints. Large boot prints. Deep, fresh. They went around my campsite in wide circles, like someone had been pacing, watching. I shouted, "Is anyone there?" My voice echoed weakly. Then, from somewhere close, a man's voice answered. Almost. It was calm, quiet, too close. "What do you mean?" I asked. No reply. Then the footsteps started again, fast, coming straight toward me. I didn't think. I ran. Branches tore my arms. Roots tripped me. My lungs burned. Behind me, the footsteps followed, not running, keeping pace, like they knew I couldn't win. Finally, I burst onto a dirt road. I collapsed there, crying, shaking, unable to breathe. When I looked back, the forest was empty. Later, a ranger picked me up. When I told him everything, he just sighed. "Some people live deep out there," he said. "They don't like being seen." "Why didn't he hurt me?" I asked. The ranger looked at me for a long time. "Maybe he was deciding," he said. I never went camping alone again. Sometimes, when I'm lying in bed at night, I still hear that voice in my head, almost like I was never meant to leave. Pine Hollow was famous for disappearances. Locals said at least 12 campers had gone missing there over the years. No bodies, no clues, just empty campsites, tents left standing, food still sealed, shoes placed neatly at entrances, like people had calmly decided to step out of existence. I was 36 when I went there. I hadn't slept properly in almost a year. My younger brother Daniel had taken his own life 11 months earlier. No note, no warning, just a locked bathroom door and a sound I still hear in my dreams. Everyone kept telling me it wasn't my fault, but I was the last person he called. I didn't answer. I was busy. That word has haunted me ever since. After he died, I stopped feeling things normally. Food tasted dull. Music sounded flat. Conversations felt fake. I moved through life like a ghost, pretending to be alive. Like a ghost, pretending to be alive. When I read about Pine Hollow online, something inside me clicked. A place where people disappeared. A place where pain seemed to end. I told myself I wanted closure. That was a lie. I think part of me was hoping I wouldn't come back. I arrived late on a Sunday afternoon. The parking lot was nearly empty. 3 cars sat there, dusty and unlocked. Windows slightly open. No one around. No voices. No laughter. Just wind moving through dead leaves. At the trailhead, there was a wooden sign. "Hike at your own risk. No rescues after dark." Someone had scratched something underneath with a knife. "They don't want you to leave." I should have turned around. I didn't. I signed the logbook. When I flipped through it, I noticed something unsettling. Dozens of names. No return dates. Some were crossed out violently. Others had been circled again and again until the paper tore. I followed the main trail for about an hour before choosing a side path. It was narrower, darker, and less used. It felt private, like I was entering somewhere I wasn't meant to be. My campsite sat near a dried-up stream bed. It looked strangely untouched. No broken branches, no trash, no animal tracks. Too perfect. I set up my tent as the light faded. That's when I heard someone crying. Not loudly, quietly, like they were ashamed of it. A man's voice, somewhere in the trees. "I'm sorry," he whispered, over and over. "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." My stomach twisted. "Hello?" I called. Silence. The crying stopped instantly, like someone had pressed mute. That night, sleep wouldn't come. The forest felt heavy, oppressive, like the air itself was watching me. Around 1:30 a.m., I heard footsteps. Slow, dragging, circling my tent. Not animal, human, barely lifting their feet. I whispered, "Do you need help?" Nothing. Then came whispering. Multiple voices, low, broken, murmuring names. My name, Daniel's name, my mother's. People I hadn't thought about in years. It sounded like a support group for the dead. I pressed my hands against my ears. They didn't stop. At dawn, I felt hollow, like something had been slowly draining me all night. I decided to hike deeper, hoping movement would clear my head. That was when I started seeing the objects. A ripped jacket sleeve, a broken watch, a child's sock, a wallet with everything inside except the ID. They were laid beside the trail, carefully, like offerings, like breadcrumbs. After 2 hours, I found something worse. A cluster of tents, 7 of them, all zipped, all upright, all empty. No fires, no food, No bags, no signs of struggle, just abandoned lives. Inside one tent, I found a journal. It belonged to a woman named Rachel. Her handwriting got shakier with every page. They talk to me at night. They sound like my dad. They say he's waiting. They say I don't have to hurt anymore. I'm so tired. I think tomorrow I'll listen. That was the last entry. My chest felt tight. I couldn't breathe properly. Then I heard Daniel's voice, right behind me. "Hey," he said softly. "You finally came." My blood froze. I turned slowly. No one was there, but his voice continued. I was so scared, it whispered. "Why didn't you answer?" I waited. Tears blurred my vision. "I'm sorry," I said out loud. "I'm so sorry." The trees shifted, shadows thickened, and suddenly I wasn't alone. People stood between the trunks, dozens of them, men, women, teenagers, even children. Their skin looked gray, their eyes empty, their mouths trembling. They stared at me with desperate hunger, and they spoke in voices I knew. "You could have saved me. You didn't care. You were selfish. You left me. Stay. Make it right." They stepped closer, slowly, patiently, like predators who knew their prey was tired. Daniel's voice was closest. "I forgive you," it said gently. "If you stay." I felt something break inside me. A deep animal fear took over. I screamed and ran. I crashed through branches. I fell. I scraped my face and hands raw. But I ran. Behind me they followed. Not running. Behind me they followed. Not running, walking, always. Just close enough, whispering, promising relief, promising rest, promising reunion. After what felt like hours, I burst onto the main trail and collapsed. 2 hikers found me shaking and sobbing. I couldn't explain anything. I just kept begging them to leave. They thought I was in shock. Maybe I was. A month later, I read that 3 people had disappeared in Pine Hollow the same week I was there. The campsites were found in a circle, just like the others. Neat, silent, perfect. Sometimes when I'm exhausted, when guilt feels heavy, when life feels unbearable, I still hear Daniel's voice, telling me it's okay, telling me he's waiting, and I understand now why so many people never come back. Pine Hollow doesn't take you by force. It convinces you that you deserve to stay. Cedar Ridge Forest sits high in the mountains, covered in thick fog almost every night. I went there with my cousin for a weekend trip. His name was Marcus. He was 31, recently unemployed, and going through a rough divorce. He had called me one night around midnight, drunk and crying, saying he just needed one normal weekend where nobody asked him questions and nobody expected anything from him. So when he suggested camping, I agreed. Neither of us had been in a good place mentally. We both needed space. We both needed quiet. Cedar Ridge seemed perfect, remote, cold, empty. When we arrived Friday afternoon, the fog was already rolling in, thick and low, like smoke clinging to the ground. You could only see about 20 feet ahead. Beyond that, everything faded into gray. "Feels like a horror movie," Marcus joked. I laughed, but something about it made my stomach tighten. We parked near an old wooden sign that read, "CE-R Ridge, National Forest, enter at your own risk." The bottom half of the sign had been scratched up. Someone had carved words into it. "People get lost here." We didn't talk about it. We hiked in for about an hour before finding a small clearing near a ridge. The view would have been beautiful if we could see it. Instead, there was nothing but fog and wind. It felt like we were floating in the clouds. We set up our tents close together and built a small fire. The temperature dropped quickly. By sunset, we were wearing jackets and gloves. That was when the fog thickened. It crept between the trees, wrapped around our campsite, swallowed everything beyond arm's reach. It felt like being trapped inside a closed room made of mist. Around dinner, Marcus grew quiet. "Do you ever think about just disappearing?" he asked suddenly. I looked at him. "What do you mean?" "Like, not dying," he said. "Just walking away, starting over, somewhere nobody knows you." I shrugged. "Everyone thinks that sometimes." He nodded slowly. "I think about it a lot. That night we went to bed early. The cold and the altitude made us tired. Sometime after midnight, I woke up to Marcus calling my name. "Hey," he whispered. "You awake?" "Yeah," I said. "What's wrong?" "I can hear someone," he replied. I listened. "What's wrong?" "I can hear someone," he replied. I listened. At first I heard nothing. Then footsteps. Slow, wet, like boots walking through damp leaves, somewhere in the fog, moving back and forth. "Probably another camper," I said. "No," Marcus whispered. "It's been doing that for like an hour." My heart started beating faster. "Did you see anyone?" "No, I can't see anything." The footsteps stopped. Then a voice spoke. A man's voice. Low, calm. "Marcus." We both froze. "That's your name," I whispered. "I know," he replied. The voice came again. "You don't have to pretend anymore." It sounded kind, gentle, like someone comforting a friend. "Who is that?" I shouted. No answer. I shouted. No answer. Just fog and silence. After that, neither of us slept. At dawn, the fog was still there, thick as ever. We couldn't even see our own footprints from the night before. Marcus looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, hand shaking slightly. "I think we should leave," I said. He nodded. "Yeah, definitely." We packed up quickly and started back toward the trail. After 10 minutes, I realized something was wrong. We should have reached the main path by now. Instead, we were deeper in trees. "Did you turn somewhere?" I asked. "No," Marcus said. "I followed you. We checked the map. It didn't match anything around us. We tried another direction. Same result. Fog, trees, silence." After 2 hours, panic set in. Our phones had no signal. The GPS wouldn't load. Every direction looked identical. That's when Marcus stopped walking. "I hear it again," he whispered. The footsteps, behind us. Slow, deliberate, crunch, step, crunch, step, crunch. "Don't turn around," he said. "Why?" "Because I don't think it's a person." The voice came again, close now. "So tired, Marcus," it said softly. "You've been tired for so long. You don't have to try anymore." Marcus started crying. "I can't do this anymore," he whispered. "Don't listen," I said. "It's messing with you. It sounds real," he replied. "It knows things." The fog shifted. Shapes formed. Human shapes, standing between the trees, watching, waiting. They didn't move. They didn't breathe. They just stood there. Marcus took a step toward them. I grabbed his arm. "Don't. They understand," he said. "They know how tired I am." "Marcus, please," I begged. "That's not real." He looked at me and smiled. "For the first time in months. I'm finally calm," he said. Then he pulled away and walked into the fog. "Marcus," I screamed. I ran after him, but after 10 feet, he was gone. Completely gone. No footsteps, no sounds, no movement, just fog. I searched for hours, screaming his name, crying, collapsing. Eventually, I found the main trail by accident and followed it until I reached the parking lot. Rescue teams searched for 3 days. They never found him. No body, no gear, no clues, just an empty campsite. Sometimes, when fog rolls in heavy at night, I hear his voice in my dreams, telling me he's resting, telling me he's finally okay, and I wake up knowing whatever lives in Cedar Ridge doesn't hunt you, it waits for you to give up. When I went camping at Briar Creek, that already sounds strange to say, because by that age, most people I knew had stopped doing things like that. They had families, routinies, reasons to stay home. I had none of those. My wife had left 3 years earlier. My daughter barely spoke to me anymore. I worked maintenance at a closed-down factory that was slowly being dismantled, piece by piece, like my life. Most days, I felt invisible, not lonely, worse than lonely. So when I found an old photo of myself and my brother Ethan on a camping trip from 20 years earlier, something broke open inside me. We were sitting by a creek, smiling, muddy, exhausted, happy. That was before everything went wrong. That was before I ruined him. Briar Creek was where that photo had been taken. I hadn't been back since. Ethan had drowned there when we were teenagers. Everyone called it an accident. They didn't know the truth. I did. I drove there alone on a Friday afternoon in late October. The sky was grey, the trees were bare, the road was empty. The campground was officially closed for the season, but no one stopped me. The gate was broken. The booth was abandoned. I parked beside the same creek from the photo. The water still moved slowly over the rocks, making that same soft, hollow sound, like breathing. I set up my tent without thinking. My hands remembered how, even after all these years, that scared me. By sunset, the temperature dropped sharply. I made a small fire and sat beside it with a cheap bottle of whiskey. I hadn't planned to drink. I always say that. I drank anyway. As darkness settled, memories started coming back. That last trip with Ethan. We were both 16. He was smaller than me, quieter, nervous around people. I used to tease him for it. That night, he didn't want to swim in the creek. The water was cold and fast. I told him to stop being scared. I called him weak. I told him I'd tell everyone at school. He cried if he didn't jump in. So he did. He slipped, hit his head, went under. And I froze. I watched him sink. I didn't scream. I didn't jump. I stood there for almost 30 seconds before moving. By then, it was too late. I never told anyone that part. Sitting there now, alone in the dark, I felt it all again. The guilt, the shame, the image of his face underwater. Around 10 p.m., I heard something near the creek. Splashes, soft, rhythmic, like someone stepping in shallow water. I stood up. "Hello?" I called. No answer. The splashing continued. Slow, careful. I grabbed my flashlight and walked closer. The beam cut through the darkness. Nothing, just water and rocks. I went back to my fire. A few minutes later, I heard whispering. From behind my tent, 2 voices. Low, urgent. "I told you not to. You made me. I was scared." My chest tightened. Those were our voices, our words. From that night, I stood up again, shaking. "This isn't funny," I said. "Whoever's out there, leave me alone." Silence. Then I heard footsteps approaching, heavy, wet, stopping right outside my tent. Someone breathed, slow, deep, right behind the fabric. "Why didn't you save me?" A voice whispered. It was Ethan's voice. Exactly. Not similar. Not close. Exact. I dropped the flashlight. "No," I said. "You're not real. You watched," it replied. "You waited. You let me die. I backed away until I hit a tree. I was scared," I whispered. "I was just a kid." "So was I," the voice said. The tent zipper moved, slowly, by itself, opening. I screamed and ran toward my truck. Branches tore my jacket. Rocks cut my hands. I didn't care. I reached the parking area and froze. My truck door was open. The interior light was on, like someone had been waiting. On the driver's seat sat my old backpack, the one I'd used as a teenager, the one that had been buried with Ethan. Inside it was his wet hoodie, still stained, still smelling faintly of creek water. I collapsed. I don't remember how long I stayed there, crying, vomiting, shaking. At some point I heard footsteps again, coming closer and closer. I got in the truck and drove. I didn't look back. I didn't stop until sunrise. 2 weeks later, I got a call from the Park Service. They asked if I'd been camping at Briar Creek. I said yes. They told me something had been found near my campsite, a shallow grave with bones, too small to be an adult. They said it was impossible. Records showed Ethan had been buried in town, but the DNA matched. They asked if I knew anything. I said no. I lied. I still do, because some nights when my house is quiet, I hear water and breathing, and someone standing just outside my bedroom door, waiting for me to remember, waiting for me to admit it, waiting for me to follow. Some places don't let you move on. They wait until you're weak enough to come back. So how did this story make you feel? Did it disturb you, unsettle you, or stay in your mind longer than you expected? If you enjoy dark, realistic horror like this, make sure to subscribe to Creepy N, and let me know if you want more stories like these.